Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kid Stories Podcast. I'm Phil Bechtel. Let's get into a shout-out. Greta just turned 7 years old. Happy birthday, Greta. I hope for your birthday you get a cat bag, which is just a bag full of cats, and a duck sidekick who has superpowers, and a magical amulet that gives you super strength, and a big bucket of goofballs. I think if you were in the stories, Greta, you'd be a blip ninja who can teleport, and you can just blip in and out of sight. Thanks for listening, Greta, and happy birthday. Today's episode is titled Swamps and Secrets, Part 3. Old Witch Tubes and the others opened their eyes to splitting headaches and strange new surroundings. They had woken inside of a building. The place looked abandoned, but once lived in. The walls were stone. The room they were in had tables and half-filled bookcases, everything covered in a layer of dust. "Where are we?" William asked. He looked around to make sure everybody was there. He picked up Sparky and patted him on the back. "You okay, buddy?" The little penguin squeaked and stretched. "We're in the Crooked Tower," said Tubes, not bothering to get up from her position slumped against the wall. "We're still in the southern swamps. Not too far from the battle, but safe for now." "How did we get here?" asked Cathryn. "What did you do?" Cathryn's arms still hurt from where Tubes had taken her hand and done something. "I teleported us away," said Tubes. "Well, why didn't you teleport us away further?" asked William. "If we're still in the swamps, then—" "I couldn't," interrupted Tubes. "I've never teleported before. Someone showed me how a while ago, but I've never had the power to do it. We were only able to do it together," she said, looking to Cathryn, explaining why she had to hold her hand. "I didn't have the power to teleport us far, and honestly, I'm a little bit surprised it worked at all." Cathryn noticed that Irene was a kid again, transformed back from her dragon form. She was lying on the ground, still injured badly from the Red Cloak's magic blasts. Cathryn knelt beside her and began running her hand over her wounds, just above her skin. "So, it seems like there's a lot I don't know about you three," said Tubes. "If we're going to get out of this, you need to tell me what you're all capable of." "Well, I can heal, as you can see," said Cathryn, "and I can take powers from other people." Tubes narrowed her eyes and looked to William. "I don't really have any magical powers, but the Red Cloaks gave me ninja training," he said. "And you have a magical penguin pet that can cough up fireballs?" "Yep," said William. "And Irene can turn into a dragon." Tubes groaned in pain as she stood up. She walked over to where Cathryn was healing Irene. The young girl was still not awake, and Tubes noticed ivory-colored scales on her arms. William answered Tubes's question before she asked it. "She gets more scales on her human body every time she turns into a dragon," he said. "We don't really know why, but we think she's going to eventually become a dragon all the time if she keeps switching back and forth like that." "How long will it take you to heal her?" Tubes asked. "I don't know," said Cathryn. "None of us have ever been injured this bad. But she usually bounces back quicker than the two of us, so hopefully not long." "Yes, hopefully not long," Tubes said. She walked over to a window and peered out into the swamps. "The cloaks will find us soon. We can't stay here." "So where do we go then?" William asked. Tubes thought. She didn't have an answer. They were deep in the southern swamps, surrounded by angry Red Cloaks out looking for them. "I think we need to hike over to the coast," she said. "We can walk the beach north back up to the valley and figure out what to do next." "Or Irene could get better quick and she could fly us all through the swamps back to the Red Cloak hideout," said William. "No one's there right now. They're all out looking for us. We can go straight there and burn the place to the ground." "Well, some of them would surely see us flying back there," said Tubes. "Oh, they'd rush back and—" "They couldn't beat us back, though," said Cathryn. "Irene's way faster than any of them, even if she's carrying us. We rush back, burn it down, and keep heading north to get out of the swamps. Good idea, William." "Well, now, hang on," said Tubes. She didn't love the idea of them revealing themselves to the Red Cloaks again. They had us. If it weren't for me teleporting us away, where would we be? And we appreciate that, Tubes. And we're sorry about kidnapping you. But we're going back, and we're going to burn it all down, said William. If you don't want to join us, that's fine. We understand. Tubes sighed. She didn't agree with it, but she understood. The kids wouldn't be able to live well knowing that Siren and the others were still out there. All right, fine, said Tubes. We'll go back as soon as Irene is ready. Old Witch Tubes pulled a chair up to the window and stared out into the swamps, keeping watch while Cathryn healed Irene. Hours later, and Irene had made a miraculous recovery. Tubes was impressed with Cathryn's healing abilities, especially since she didn't need to use any potions or powders. Impressive, Tubes said, looking Irene over. You'll have to show me how you do that someday. Sure. Maybe that'll be like an I'm sorry we kidnapped you gift or something, Cathryn said. It'll have to wait. We gotta go. You ready, Irene? William said. Yeah, I guess so, said Irene, yawning. She was still quite tired from all the fighting and injuries and everything. The group went outside of the tower, and Irene closed her eyes. Tubes watched as she transformed into a dragon. Ivory-colored scales grew out of her skin and covered her entire body as she grew and grew and grew. She was somehow larger than before. Tubes understood that she must have some control over how big she got. The old witch wondered just how big this kid dragon could get. They all climbed onto Irene's back, grabbing onto her thick scales. You're probably going to see some Red Cloaks, said Tubes. Don't stop to fight. Just keep going straight back. Irene squatted down and then leaped up into the air, pumping her wings to lift them all up into the trees. She effortlessly built up speed and swerved around branches. Soon she was going so fast that Tubes, William, and Cathryn were all holding on as tight as they could to avoid being thrown off. They heard the fizzle of magic blasts whiz by them from the ground as they passed over some Red Cloaks. But Irene was going too fast for them to get a hit, and they were going to get back to the Red Cloak hideout in no time. Irene came in fast but landed gently. There was still tons of food on the outside tables from the Red Cloak's dinner. The fires were still going, with iron pots swinging above them, stews bubbling. They all slid off Irene's back and looked around, wondering if anyone stayed behind. But there was no one there. Let's not waste any time, said William. He winked at Sparky, and the little penguin coughed up some fireballs. William pulled his baseball bat off his back holster and took 3 swings, each time launching a fireball at the nearby buildings. 1 went on a roof, and 2 crashed through windows, and the buildings slowly began smoking. Irene stomped over to the Red Cloak structures and hosed them with dragon flame. Do you have any fire powers? Tubes asked Cathryn. She shook her head back and forth. Me neither, said Tubes. Her and Cathryn walked over to the dinner tables and began snacking, while William and Irene set fire to the Red Cloak buildings. Soon the sound of crackling flames filled the air, and thick towers of smoke rose up above the trees of the southern swamps. Okay then, said Tubes. This looks good. You 3 all done? William and Irene stood before a collection of smoldering buildings. That felt good, said William. Hey, where'd you get those goofballs? William had turned to see Cathryn and Tubes still stuffing their faces with the leftover food from the Red Cloak dinner. He went to get some goofballs of his own, but was interrupted. You think you're the only one who can teleport? A voice echoed through the trees. You thought wrong, you little rats! Everyone spun, jerking their heads from side to side to see who was there, even though they knew who it was. As they looked all around them, they saw the Red Cloaks blip into view from nowhere. 1 second they were there, the next second there was a flash, and they were there. One at a time, these flashes happened all around them, the Red Cloaks teleporting nearby. Each Red Cloak wore a large pendant around their neck that glowed brightly for a moment after they flashed into view. Tubes grumbled. This is why she wanted to leave the swamps right away. She knew the Red Cloaks probably had some tricks like this up their sleeve, and now here they were, surrounded again. Irene and William wasted no time. Irene, already in her dragon form, swished her head from side to side, unleashing a thick stream of flames toward the Red Cloaks who just blipped into view. They dove out of the path of fire and scattered, but there were more behind her. Before William could even say anything, Sparky coughed up some fireballs. William reared back and slugged the flaming balls out toward the Red Cloaks who had begun firing on Irene from behind her. Tubes and Cathryn took action, and suddenly the air was full of magic blasts of all kinds zipping around. The Red Cloaks had them completely surrounded. And what's worse, they came with a plan. Siren dashed out of the trees and ran straight for Irene. The kid dragon was swinging her tail and breathing fire erratically, trying to fend off the onslaught of attacks from all around. She didn't see Siren, who leaped up onto Irene, grabbing her scales and climbing up to her head. William saw the wisps of blue magic as Siren spoke to Irene. The magic floated about like cloud snakes and slipped into Irene's dragon ears. She shook her head, trying to buck Siren off, but she was holding on tight, and she continued whispering her magic, hypnotizing voice. William pulled his bat back, expecting Sparky to cough up a few fireballs, but nothing came out of the little penguin's mouth. Just a few puffs of smoke. He was exhausted. The little penguin had probably spat up 100 fireballs since their first fight, and now he was spent and needed to rest before he did any more. William looked around for something, anything, to hit at Siren before she completely hypnotized Irene and turned her against them. There, on the nearby tables, were the Red Cloak's stale dinner. A big pile of dark chocolate goofballs sat on a silver platter. William rushed and grabbed a handful. He threw them all in the air and took a huge swing. Some of the goofballs fell to the ground, but he honed in on one and nailed it square. The goofball, a bit hard from sitting out for a few hours, sailed true, and just before it reached Siren, William yelled her name. "Siren!" She couldn't help but turn toward the sound of her name, and as she continued whispering her evil hypnotic magic, the goofball whapped right into her mouth. Siren choked and tried to cough up the goofball. She hacked and hacked, but it was preventing her from using her magic. Cathryn noticed William running toward Siren with the baseball bat up and ready. She raced to Siren now as well, who was still clutching onto Irene's back with one hand and reaching into her mouth with the other, trying to pull out the goofball. Irene was woozy from Siren's magic. She was swaying back and forth, trying to get her bearings, trying to think straight. Luckily, the other Red Cloaks were too afraid to blast at the kids now since they were so close to Siren, and they didn't want to miss and hit her. So everyone raced to Irene and Siren now. Cathryn reached her first, leaping up to drag her off of Irene just before William took a swing at her with his bat. Cathryn and Siren fell to the ground, and William dropped his bat and jumped on Siren, trying to hold her down. Cathryn grabbed Siren's head in both her hands, putting one hand over each of Siren's ears. The Red Cloak leader's eyes grew big as she realized what Cathryn was doing. The space between Siren's head and Cathryn's hands glowed. But this was no healing magic. This was something rarer, something even Cathryn had only tried a few times. Siren struggled, but William held her down tight, and in a few seconds, the bright flash of Cathryn's magic had faded. A whole team of Red Cloaks were within striking range of Cathryn and William now. They lunged at the two kids holding their leader down, but Irene had just shaken off the fog of Siren's magic, and the kid dragon said, "Nope," as her huge tail swung hard, knocking them all down and out. William and Cathryn fell to their backs and let Siren up. She stood and coughed up the goofball and began yelling at them, expecting the blue wisps of her magic to slither from her lips and force the kids into doing what she commanded. But no blue wisps slid from her mouth. She yelled and yelled, getting angrier, and William, Cathryn, and Irene just stood and watched her melt down. "What have you done?" Siren gasped, holding her throat with both hands. "My magic! What have you done?" Cathryn opened her mouth, and thin blue wisps of magic trailed out. "Your magic is my magic now, Siren," Cathryn said. "Ew, that's kind of gross," William said, leaning away from the creepy blue magic creeping out of Cathryn's mouth. "It's not gross," snapped Cathryn. And before they could start arguing, Siren pulled a dagger from her belt and lunged at Cathryn. Irene, still sitting nearby, snapped her jaws around Siren's head in a flash and froze. Siren went stiff as a statue and trembled, Irene's toothy dragon mouth all around her head. Dragon drool dripped onto Siren's head and shoulders. She dropped her dagger and put her hands up as much as she could with her head in a dragon's mouth. "Okay," she said. "You win." "Don't eat Siren's head, Irene," said William. "That'd be nasty." Irene sighed and pulled her mouth off of Siren's head and slowly turned back into her kid self, now with a few more scales on her arms. All the other Red Cloaks, now seeing their leader give up, also laid down their weapons and surrendered. "Well, that was interesting," said Tubes, holding a bunch of magic staffs and wands that she took from the Red Cloaks. "Let's deliver these Red Cloaks to the Southern Swamps dojo. Then I'll introduce you to the professors at the academy." "What's the academy?" asked Irene. "Oh, you'll love it there," said Tubes. "It's like a school for kids like you." "Do they allow dragons?" Irene asked. Tubes nodded. "They actually have a dragon there already. He teaches potions, I believe." Siren stood slumped and quiet. She was whispering and trying to look down at her mouth. She couldn't believe that her powers were gone. Just like that. Cathryn, William, and Irene had no sympathy for the evil Red Cloak leader. Siren and the Red Cloaks marched ahead of Tubes and the others, heading north toward the Southern Swamps dojo. Irene grabbed the tray of stale goofballs, and they ate them all the way there. The end. Thanks for listening, friends. There are some links in the show notes, and you can click those to discover some books I've written and audiobooks I've done, like Go Save Your Brother and Kids Fighting Robot Zombies. Check them out. Adios.